My name is Daniel Carter. 3 years ago, I was standing outside my own family's mansion with nothing but a torn backpack in my hand, while my father told security to throw me out like I was a stranger. Today, I walk back into that same house, not as their son, as the owner. And what I did next is something they will never forget. Before I tell you how everything turned this way, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now let's get into it. Because this story didn't start with revenge. It started with trust. And that was my biggest mistake. I wasn't always the guy who could buy houses without blinking. 3 years ago, I was just the disappointment of the Carter family. My father built one of the biggest real estate empires in the city. Everyone knew his name. Everyone respected him. Except, inside our own house, respect worked differently. It wasn't about who you were. It was about what you were worth. My older brother Lucas was everything my father wanted. Sharp suits, perfect grades, already managing major deals before he turned 25. And then there was me. I didn't care about power or status. I didn't care about impressing investors or playing business politics. I just wanted something real. And that's where Emily came in. She wasn't from a powerful family. She didn't come with connections or money. She worked a simple job at a small cafe when I met her. But she was real. She laughed at things that didn't matter. She listened when I spoke. She made me feel like I was enough, without needing to prove anything. And that was exactly why my family hated her. The first time I brought her home, I knew it wouldn't go well. But I didn't expect it to go that bad. My father barely looked at her. Lucas didn't even try to hide his smirk. And my mother, she just stayed silent, which somehow felt worse than anything else. "She's not one of us," my father said later that night, like Emily wasn't even worth remembering. I remember clenching my fists. "She's everything I want," I told him. That's when he looked at me in a way I'll never forget. Cold. Calculating. "Wanting something," he said slowly, "doesn't mean you deserve it." I didn't know it at the time, but that conversation was the beginning of the end. Still I stayed. I believed things would change. I believed they would eventually accept her. Believe I could have both my family and the life I wanted. I was wrong. First it was small things. Emily wasn't invited to family dinners. Then my father started cutting me out of business meetings. Then Lucas took over projects I had already started. Every day I felt myself being pushed further out, like I didn't belong anymore. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what they did behind my back. One evening I came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I walked into my father's office, and that's when I heard voices. Lucas and my father. "I've already spoken to the investors," Lucas was saying. "If Daniel stays involved, they're pulling out." My chest tightened. "And the girl?" my father asked. Lucas laughed softly. "She's the weakness. Remove her and he folds." I felt something inside me crack. That's when everything got worse. I stepped into the room. Both of them turned. Silence filled the air. "What did you just say?" I asked. Lucas leaned back like he didn't care. "You heard me," he said. My father didn't even deny it. "Daniel," he said calmly, "you're making emotional decisions. That's dangerous in this family." "She's not a decision," I snapped. "She's my life." My father stood up slowly. "No," he said. "She's a liability." That word hit harder than anything else. Liability. Like Emily was a problem to be solved. Like she meant nothing. I didn't know it at the time, but they had already made their move. The next morning everything changed. I was called into the main hall. My father was standing there. Lucas beside him. 2 security guards near the door. And a suitcase. My suitcase. "What is this?" I asked, even though I already felt the answer coming. "You've made your choice," my father said. "Now we're making ours." My stomach dropped. "You're cutting me off?" I asked. "No," Lucas said with a small smile. "We're removing you." That's when everything stopped feeling real. "You can't be serious," I said. My father stepped closer. "From this moment on, you are no longer part of this family or this company." My hand started shaking. "You're doing this because of her?" I asked. "No," he replied. "We're doing this because of you." The words echoed in my head. Before I could say anything else, one of the guards stepped forward. "Sir, we need you to leave." "Sir." "Not Daniel. Not son. Sir." That's when it hit me. They weren't threatening me anymore. They were done with me. I looked at Lucas. He didn't look away. I looked at my father. He didn't hesitate. And just like that, I had nothing. No home. No money. No family. Just a suitcase. And the one person they thought they could use against me. Emily. But what happened next was something none of them expected. Emily was waiting for me outside the gate. She must have seen everything. Her eyes moved from the guards to the suitcase in my hand, then back to me. "Daniel," she said softly. I tried to smile, but it didn't come out right. "I guess we're starting from zero," I said. For a second, she didn't say anything. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't felt before. Fear. Not for me. For her. "I'm sorry," I added quickly. "I didn't think it would go this far." She stepped closer. Then she did something I didn't expect. She took the suitcase from my hand. "Then we'll go further," she said. I blinked. "What?" She smiled. "If they took everything from you, we'll build something better." I didn't know it at the time, but those words would become the foundation of everything that came next. We didn't have much. Actually, we had nothing. We moved into a tiny apartment on the edge of the city, the kind of place where the walls were thin, and the lights flickered if you used too many appliances at once. I went from boardrooms to job hunting, from suits to standing in lines, from being Mr. Carter to being just another guy nobody noticed. And that's when everything got worse, because reality doesn't hit you all at once. It hits you in pieces. The first rejection didn't hurt. The second one stung a little. By the 10th, I started to understand something. My last name had opened doors. Without it, I was invisible. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was watching Emily pretend everything was okay. She kept smiling, kept encouraging me, kept saying, "We'll figure it out," even when I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. One night I came home with nothing again. No job, no leads, nothing. She had made dinner. Simple, cheap, but she tried to make it feel normal. "I got an interview tomorrow," I lied. She looked at me for a second, and I knew she knew, but she didn't call me out. She just smiled. "That's amazing," she said. That broke me more than any rejection ever could, because she believed in me even when I didn't. But I didn't know. Something else was happening behind the scenes. Something I wouldn't discover until it was almost too late. A week later, I finally got a job. Construction. Heavy lifting. Long hours. Low pay. The kind of job my father would have laughed at. But I took it, because I didn't have a choice. The first day, my hands weren't ready for it. Blisters formed within hours. My body ached in places I didn't even know existed. But I kept going, because every brick I carried, every bag I lifted, felt like I was rebuilding myself, piece by piece. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came 3 weeks later. I was working late when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. "Hello." Silence. Then a voice. Cold. Familiar. "Still pretending you can survive without us?" My blood froze. "Lucas," I said. He chuckled. "I was wondering how long it would take before reality hit you." I gripped the phone tighter. "What do you want?" "I just wanted to check on you," he said casually. "See how long you'd last." "I'm doing fine," I replied. There was a pause. Then he laughed again. "No, you're not." Those 3 words hit harder than anything else. "You think working like that makes you strong?" he continued. "It just proves you don't belong where you came from." I didn't respond, because part of me was afraid he might be right. But then he said something that changed everything. "You should have just listened," he added. "Walked away from the girl. You'd still have everything." My jaw tightened. "She is everything," I said quietly. Silence. Then his voice dropped. "Then you'll lose everything again." The line went dead. I stood there staring at my phone. I didn't know it at the time. But that call wasn't just a warning. It was a setup, because what happened next almost destroyed us completely. 2 days later, I came home early, and the apartment door was open. My heart dropped. I stepped inside slowly. Emily, called out. No answer. The place was quiet. Too quiet. And then I saw it. The room was empty. Not messy. Empty. Her clothes were gone. Her bag was gone. Everything gone. My chest tightened. No, I whispered. I checked the bathroom. Nothing. The kitchen. Nothing. Then I saw the note. A small piece of paper on the table. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. Daniel, I'm sorry. I didn't want to do this, but I don't have a choice. This isn't your fault. Please don't come looking for me. Emily, for a moment. I couldn't breathe. The room felt smaller. The silence louder. No, I said again. But this time it didn't feel like denial. It felt like something inside me breaking. I dropped into the chair, staring at the note, reading it again, and again, and again. But the words didn't change. She was gone. Just like that. And I didn't understand why. But I was about to find out. 'Cause this time, I wasn't going to wait. And what I discovered next changed everything. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that note again. This isn't your fault. That line kept repeating in my head. Because if it wasn't my fault, then whose was it? I didn't know it at the time, but deep down I already had a name. Lucas. The next morning, I went straight to the only place I knew could give me answers. The construction site. Not because Emily would be there, but because I needed to think. Needed to move. Needed to do something before I lost my mind. I worked like I had something to prove. Faster. Harder. Ignoring the pain in my hands. Ignoring the ache in my back. Because pain was easier than thinking. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the silence. No messages. No calls. Nothing. Like she had disappeared completely. By lunchtime I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped away from the site and pulled out my phone. I dialed the number I swore I would never call again. Lucas. It rang once. Twice. Then he picked up. Well, look who finally called, he said. My grip tightened. Where is she? I demanded. He didn't even pretend to be confused. Who? Emily, I snapped. Don't play games with me. There was a pause. Then a slow exhale. You really think everything revolves around you, don't you? My chest burned. What did you do? I said, my voice low. He chuckled. I didn't do anything, he replied. She made her own choice. I didn't believe him. Not for a second. You're lying, I said. Am I? He asked. Silence. Then he added, softer this time. You should ask yourself why she left. That line hit differently. Not like an attack. More like a seed. Doubt. And I hated it. Stay away from me, I said and hung up. But the damage was already done. Because now, there was a question in my head I couldn't ignore. Why did she leave? I didn't know it at the time. But the answer wasn't simple. And it wasn't something I was ready for. That evening I went back to the apartment. Even though I knew it was empty, I sat there in the silence, looking at the space where her things used to be, trying to remember if I had missed something. A sign. A warning. Anything. And then, I noticed it. Something small. Something I hadn't seen before. A second piece of paper partially tucked under the table. My heart started racing. I reached down and pulled it out. It wasn't a note. It was a receipt. My eyes scanned it quickly. Bank transfer. A large amount. Way more than anything we had ever seen. Sender name blurred. But the last line made my stomach drop. Final payment confirmed. Payment? For what? My mind started connecting pieces. Too fast. Too sharp. No, I whispered. Because there was only one thing that made sense. She didn't leave because she wanted to. She left because she was paid to. And suddenly everything felt different. That's when everything got worse. Because if money was involved, then this wasn't just personal. This was planned. Carefully. And I knew exactly who had the power to do something like that. My father. The realization hit like a punch. He didn't just kick me out. He didn't just cut me off. He removed everything around me. One piece at a time. And Emily was just another piece. My hands curled into fists. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. That night, something changed inside me. Not just pain. Not just loss. Focus. Cold. Clear. For the first time since everything fell apart, I stopped reacting and started thinking, if they used money to take everything from me, then I would use the same thing to take everything back. But I didn't know it at the time. This wasn't going to take weeks or months. It was going to take years. 3 years. 3 years of building. 3 years of silence. 3 years of becoming someone they would never see coming. And when I finally came back, it wouldn't be as their son. It would be as something else entirely. 3 years later, I stood across the street from the mansion. Nothing had changed. Same gates. Same guards. Same arrogance sitting behind those walls. But I had changed. Everything about me had changed. The cheap clothes were gone. The exhaustion was gone. Even the anger felt different now. Controlled. I adjusted my suit slightly. Not flashy. Not loud. But expensive enough to speak without words. A black car pulled up beside me. The driver stepped out and opened the door. "Everything is ready, Mr. Carter," he said. I nodded. And for a moment, I looked at the house one last time. Because this wasn't just a visit. This was a return. And what they didn't know was that this house was no longer theirs. I stepped out of the car slowly. The same gates that once closed behind me opened without question. That alone told me everything. Power doesn't announce itself. It gets recognized. The guards didn't look at me twice. Not because they remembered me, but because of the car, the suit, the presence. I walked up the same path I had walked 3 years ago, carrying nothing but a suitcase and humiliation. Today, I carried something else. Control. I didn't know it at the time. But this moment would change more than just my life. It would expose everything. The doors opened before I even reached them. A staff member stood there. New face. No recognition. "Welcome, sir," he said politely. Sir. That word again. But this time it felt different. I stepped inside. The house looked exactly the same. Same marble floors. Same chandelier. Same walls that had watched me fall apart. But something felt smaller. Not physically. Emotionally. Because I was no longer the one trying to belong. I walked into the main hall. Voices echoed from the dining room. Laughter. Glasses clinking. A gathering. Of course. My father loved his audience. I moved toward the sound. Each step steady. Measured. Until I reached the doorway. And then I saw them. My father. Lucas. Guests. Business partners. All sitting around the same table where everything had started. For a moment, nobody noticed me. And then someone did. The conversation slowed. Eyes turned. One by one. Until silence filled the room. My father looked up. First confusion. Then recognition. Then something else. Something I had never seen before. Uncertainty. "Daniel," he said slowly. Lucas turned next. His expression didn't change immediately. But his eyes did. Sharp. Alert. Like he sensed something was wrong, but didn't know what. I stepped forward. "Good evening," I said calmly. My voice didn't shake. Not even a little. "You shouldn't be here," Lucas said quickly, standing up. I glanced at him. Then back at my father. "I think I should," I replied. The room was completely silent now. Guests exchanging looks. Trying to understand what was happening. My father stood up slowly. "You left," he said. I almost smiled. "No," I corrected. "You threw me out." His jaw tightened. "That doesn't give you the right to walk back in like this." That's when I took another step forward and placed a folder on the table. Quietly. Deliberately. "I'm not here as your son," I said. A pause. Then I added, "I'm here as the owner." Confusion spread instantly. "What are you talking about?" one of the guests whispered. Lucas frowned. "What kind of game is this?" I didn't answer him. Instead, I opened the folder and slid the documents across the table toward my father. He looked down. His hands didn't move at first. Then slowly he picked them up. I watched his eyes. Line by line. Word by word. And that's when it happened. That moment. The one I had imagined 100 times. His face changed. Not anger. Not denial. Something deeper. Realization. "This is," he started. But he couldn't finish. Lucas stepped closer. "What is it?" he demanded. My father didn't answer immediately, 'cause now he understood. You sold it, I said quietly. The room felt like it stopped breathing. Lucas grabbed the papers. His eyes scanned them quickly. Then again. Faster. No, he said. This isn't possible. I leaned back slightly. It is, I replied, because what they didn't know was that their empire had been cracking long before I walked back in. Bad investments. Hidden debts. Deals that looked strong on the outside but were collapsing underneath. And when everything started falling apart, they did the one thing they swore they never would. They sold the house. Quietly. Desperately. Through layers of companies trying to hide it. Trying to survive. But they never checked who was buying. Lucas looked up at me. You, he said. I nodded once. Yes. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Real. You're lying, he said again. But this time it didn't sound convincing. My father finally spoke. How? He asked. Just one word. But it carried everything. I met his eyes. You taught me, I said. That was the truth. Everything I built. Every move I made, every deal I closed came from watching him. Learning. Understanding. But doing it differently. Better. Cleaner. Stronger. I lost everything, I continued. And I realized something. I paused. Let the silence stretch. You were never powerful because of what you had, I said. You were powerful because people believed you were. No one spoke. So I finished it. And now they don't. Lucas slammed the papers down. This doesn't change anything, he snapped. This is still our house. I looked at him, then said the one thing he wasn't ready for. No, I replied calmly. It isn't. Another silence. Then I added, you have 30 days. My father's head snapped up. For what? To leave. The words landed hard, like a final verdict. The room erupted in whispers. Lucas stepped toward me. You think you can just walk in here and throw us out? I didn't move, because I had already been there. Already felt that moment. Already lived it. I'm not thinking, I said quietly. I'm doing. He stopped, because now, he understood something too. This wasn't emotional. This wasn't revenge and anger. This was something colder. Final. My father stared at me. Long silent. Then he asked the only question that mattered. Why? I held his gaze. And for the first time since I walked in, I let the truth show. Because you taught me what happens, I said slowly, when someone thinks they can take everything from you and get away with it. Silence. No one moved. No one spoke. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one standing outside. I turned toward the door, paused for just a second, then added, next time choose your family. And I walked out, just like they made me do 3 years ago. But this time, I wasn't the one losing everything. I was the one who took it back. And the truth is, they didn't lose their house that day. They lost something far more important. The illusion that they were untouchable. Because in the end, power isn't about what you have. It's about what you can survive without.